Story 1. I'm Hispanic and sometimes get told that, so I reply with sign language. People would just apologize for bothering me. A lady once called the police on me because she thought I was threatening her with gang signs. The police officer found it hilarious that I just signed that she was a racist idiot. Story 2. Somebody did this to me once. I took one step to the side, put my hands up in the air in a sort of victory gesture, and exclaimed loudly and proudly with a big old smile, "Made it!" Story 3. I am white British, and I work in England. My family are originally from all over Europe. The closest one from Europe was Spain. Some man came into the accident and emergency department and said people are coming over here taking our jobs. I replied, "So should I get someone else for you, seeing as I am from Spain?" They soon shut up as I have a Scouse accent. Personally, I hate racism. I have stood up for many colleagues having racial slurs thrown at them. I had one 17-year-old boy say he didn't want a certain religion of a doctor and started saying racial slurs. I said, "Get out. We don't tolerate racists here." He did leave. Story 4. Ever heard of the Gadsden Purchase? If not, look it up. I didn't cross the line, it crossed me. I can guarantee my family has been on this land longer than yours. So get out of my country. Story 5. Legit question, do people still say this? I feel like this was really prominent in the ATSTO 90s when conservative white people were brazenly saying, "Go back to China," to Asians who fled war and came as refugees. Then, post 9/11, it was directed towards Middle Eastern people during the war in Iraq. And then, when that simmered down, it shifted to Hispanic people because of the wall issue a decade ago. It just transferred over to whatever was trending for conservatives. There are still many Asian, Middle Eastern, and Hispanic people coming through. It just depends on the trend that captures their attention at the moment. But I really don't hear that much anymore. Note, to ever say that to a Native American person or a Hispanic person whose ancestors were here tens of thousands of years ago. My God. Story 6. A few months ago, someone told me to go back to Mexico, and I asked if they were paying for my vacation. I'm not even Mexican, nor do I think I look Hispanic. Story 7. It's tough dealing with ignorance. A friend of mine once calmly replied, "I am here to contribute just like you." Sometimes a calm response can make them rethink their words. If it feels unsafe, though, prioritize your safety and walk away. Story 8. Yikes. I don't know how to respond, except maybe laughing at them. On my dad's side, we've been in the United States since 1770. On my mom's side, we've been here since the 1400s. In my mind, if you've chosen a country to live in, you belong there. I would love to be able to choose where I live. And I feel certain that many people who emigrate would just as soon be in the country they were born in, but it's become unsafe or unlivable in some way. Story 9. One way would be to ask them if they live in the same town or neighborhood they grew up in. If they do not, then ask them why they do not go back there. If they do, then ask them how many meters distance is it okay for someone to live away from their parents' house. Alternatively, do not say anything and just accept them for the bigots they are. If you are somewhere legally, you should not care what other people think of it. Story 10. I had a racist white neo-Nazi yell this at me. I am a white man with no distinguishing ethnic features. I have no idea what country this man assumed I was from. No one assumes a guy like me is Scottish and Moroccan. Story 11. Once it happened to me. I told them where I come from. There are more people from your country coming to my place to find work. So, it's better you don't tell me to go. Story 12. Someone said that to me once in my hometown. I can see his confusion. He was a xenophobic person giving my kids a hard time for daring to play with a Polish kid, and my kids have American accents. Then he saw me approaching with a New York Yankees jacket on and assumed some American dad was going to call him out. So his silly little brain told me to get back to your country. Then he heard my accent telling him my kids can play with whomever they want and, by the way, I was born here. He tried to stammer an apology, then wandered off, presumably to be a hateful person to someone else. Boston, England, once dubbed the most racist town in the country. Yes. Story 13. Funny story about this. I, a Mexican female, was walking into a Latino store. dressed in very high heels and a short skirt for context. An older, 65 to 70-year-old white man with his white wife, again for context, was looking at me up and down with disgust. He starts yelling, "Go back to your country." On this day, I was having the best day ever. No one could bring me down. So I ignored him. He said it 4 more times. I ignored and ignored, but then on the 5th time I snapped. I took my huge purse and slammed it on the hood of his truck. I looked to my right, and there are about 25 Latino guys looking at me like, "We got you." I run to the man's side of his car, reach in, and start to unlock his door. He had the old school pull-up lock. I'm yelling in perfect English, "Get out of the car. I'm going to beat you and your wife up." He got scared as hell, and she's yelling, "Go, go, go." And they peel off like they saw a ghost. They totally thought I didn't speak English, Latina going into a Latino store, and I bet money they will forever think twice about who they talk disrespectfully to next. Play with me if you want to. Story 14, sure. Let me finish this brain surgery first, pay for your kids' free education, give you a job, and buy a $2 million house, and then I will be on my way back to my country. Story 15. I'd say something like, "I'm here legally and love this country too. It happened to a friend once," and staying calm really threw the person off. It's better to respond with kindness or humor than escalate things. Story 16. What did you just say? And then you drink their blood in a low orbit before dropping them back into the park where you were quietly strolling that evening with your lady. Story 17. The best is no reply at all. Just walk away. They are not worth your time or energy. And if you reply, it only draws you in, and you cannot win an argument with a fool. So for your peace of mind, just walk away. Story 18. People say that to me all the time. My grandfather's lineage is from slave days, so my family has been here a while. I'm mixed race, but it's always assumed I'm an illegal immigrant. Usually, I get Mexican. Story 19. Depending on where or how they say it, it can count as verbal abuse or discrimination, so remind them of that. If it is a workplace or a moderated forum, report them for saying it. Story 20. I was playing a community league basketball game. Some parent from the other team said this to my dad. I don't know what caused it or remember what my dad responded with, but some people are pure clowns. Story 21. Considering my ancestors came here before the country existed and then fought against the British to make this country, unless it is an indigenous person saying it, they can leave and get out of my country. Story 22. My ancestor wrote this country's constitution, the whole thing. I don't care who you are. I have a greater claim. You need to leave unless we're cousins. Story 23. I was born here. While serving, I had someone think I was from a different country. I was like, yeah, no, I was born 3 hours away in Philadelphia, and my family, as I know of, has been here since the 1800s. Story 24. I'm American, and anytime somebody tries to say that about other people, I happily remind them their family didn't even originate in America, so they might want to think again about what they are saying. They always quickly change the subject. Story 25. This go back to your country takes me back to an experience when I was only 17. My mother worked at a restaurant and helped get me a job there. I'm first-generation German-American. My mom came here with my dad in 1953. She had a rather strong German accent. She raised my 2 older brothers and me. Then, when we had our bearings, off to work she went. Dad was in tool and die. I was bussing and cleaning in the dining room once, where she was taking the orders of a couple of middle-aged ladies when one snapped at her, "Learn proper English or go back to your country." She, of course, was upset but kept her cool since she was doing her job. I was livid. Back in the kitchen, she saw my rage and said, "Don't fret. It happens all the time. I'll never forget it, though." Story 26. Go crawl back up your mother's womb if you want to be rude. They didn't want me either, if you're joking. No, thank you. God bless if you want to be polite but sassy. Story 27. I simply reply, I was born in this country and hold citizenship in only this country. Exactly what country do you propose I go back to? It works wonders to shut them up because they can't answer that question. I've been blocked many times on social media simply because I posed that question. Story 28. A group of intoxicated college girls who were being nosy told my friend and me to go back to our country after they eavesdropped on us having a conversation in Spanish at some pizza place on 6th Street in Austin not too long ago. I told them, yeah, that's how tourism works. We're going back home in a few days once our vacation is over, and we won't have to put up with rude people like you anymore. They just started sputtering, trying to come up with some reply, and then tried to make the only guy in their group stand up for them and pick a fight. But the poor guy was outnumbered 2-1, and in any case, he seemed to not agree with his friend's behavior because he looked very distressed and like he wanted to disappear. Story 29. Pack your bags, move back to your country. Take the new life skills you learned in the other country home with you. Become a successful entrepreneur, scale your business, buy a lovely home, come back to the host country on vacation, and say, thanks for the advice, it worked out really well. I'm rich now, and it's all thanks to you. Story 30. I don't have a country. It's all property of the government. If you are in the United States, you can easily state that 99.9999% of the people living there are from another country. Only indigenous people are in their country there. Story 31. My ancestors were here long before it was a country, braved the North American wilderness, led wagon trains to the west, and traded with the Native Americans, starting at least one major American city. My significant other is part of 2 tribes. Our ancestors named locations in the United States, including at least 1 national park and multiple cities and towns. Our last names are names of several places in the United States. They were the toughest of the tough because they survived to have descendants, and their descendants survived because they were the toughest of the tough. Want to say that again? Story 32. Depends. Are you a citizen? If so, just say I'm already there. If you are a foreign citizen, say I've always admired people who are welcoming. You not do much. Story 33. This post is ironic because tomorrow I am going to start looking at how hard it would be to leave mine. Probably will not. Too expensive to just move. But I am going to look into it. Story 34. I've only ever had one person complain about immigrants in front of me, not realizing that I'm one. I said, okay, so now my company is in trouble because they had my position unfilled for a year until I applied. This country has extremely low unemployment. Companies compete for skilled workers. Then I told him the amount I pay in taxes every month and what it might be used for. 4 people's child benefit, 1.5 people's retirement pension, or 2 disability pensions. Story 35. French rapper Kerry James said, "This colonial past is yours. You are the ones who chose to link your history to ours. Now you must take responsibility. The scent of blood follows you, even if you wear perfume." Story 36. Depends on which country you are in. If in the United States, everyone is an immigrant except Native Americans, so tell them to go back to Europe, laugh out loud. What right do people have to say this? Mankind originally emigrated from Africa and moved to different parts of the world, so are natives of a country really that anyway? Everyone's ancestors migrated at some time, but some people think staying in a country for a few generations gives them rights to criticize new migrants. Story 37. As an Indian working in the United States, currently in India for Diwali. Yes, I have gone back. I'm supposed to return on the 12th, but I'm drafting my resignation now. I've made enough money to last a lifetime. Story 38. If they go back to theirs too. None of us own the world. We should be adult enough to share with everyone, plus very few of us originated in the place we are. Story 39. Look around, smile ominously at them, and with a strong accent just say, no. And if they kept pestering me with it, I would just laugh maniacally like that guy from the Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire and walk away, laughing. Story 40. I live in West Wales and sadly, I do not speak the Welsh language. I have been told that I cannot call myself a true Welshman for that reason. I've also been told that because I am not from the valleys of South Wales, I am not proper Welsh. My usual response is along the lines of this. I was born in Wales, I was raised in Wales, and apart from the occasional holiday, I have spent my entire life in Wales. My work has included, among other things, supporting the health and well-being of the Welsh people, and I have helped to educate the next generation of Welsh children. There is a statue of one of my ancestors in the center of Lantricent, and I can trace my paternal ancestry back to the early 14th century through the coalfields, farmlands, and industry of South Wales. So, don't you dare tell me that I am not Welsh. This usually makes them uncomfortable and apologetic. Story 41. I would tell them to go back to Africa, seeing as all humans originated from there. Actually, tell them to go back to the ocean as life started there and then invaded and colonized land. Story 42. I would love to return to my country if there was safety, but right now there is a war there, and I have no choice but to stay. I hope you understand that no one wants to leave their homeland, especially in such difficult circumstances. Story 43. I would go back to Italy in a second if I was confident an American could do this job. It's never actually happened and Americans are cool, but that's what I would say. Story 44. I was born here even if you're not. Forget the person who said this to you, you'll drive him crazy with that. And if whoever had the nerve to say this to you, keep insisting that you were born here. Who cares? Story 45. I would say the same thing to annoy the speaker, unless they have Native American heritage. I would maybe ask why as well if my adrenaline didn't kick in. Story 46. In the Americas, Native peoples would have the most legitimacy in saying that, although they are immigrants too, just much older ones. Anyone else doesn't warrant any reply at all. There is no use arguing with ignorant individuals.